Have you ever felt an unseen force in your home? An eeriness that sends shivers down your spine? A question that many would dismiss with a chuckle. But for the residents of a certain house in Atchison, Kansas, it was a chilling reality. Nestled in the heartland of America stands an unassuming two-story brick house known as the Sallie House. It's a place that seems to hold a dark secret within its walls. A secret that has been whispered and told for decades, chilling the bones of those who dare to listen. A secret that begins with an inexplicable cold spot, a strange noise, and an eerie feeling of being watched. This house, named after its most infamous inhabitant, Sallie, has a history that is as dark as a moonless night. It was built at the turn of the 20th century and has been home to many families. Each of them thought they were moving into a lovely, cozy home, but soon they started to feel a strange presence. The first signs of paranormal activity were subtle. A soft whisper in the night, a cold spot in a room that was otherwise warm, a fleeting shadow in the corner of their eyes. Then the strange noises began. They were faint at first, like a distant murmur, but then they grew louder, more persistent. The families would often wake up in the middle of the night, their hearts pounding in their chests, as they heard footsteps pacing back and forth in the hallway, doors creaking open and then slamming shut, and the eerie sound of a child's laughter echoing through the house. They could feel someone, or something, watching them, a gaze that was cold and unyielding. An inexplicable fear would grip them, a fear that was not just of the dark, but of what lurked within it. It was a fear that clung to them, even in the light of day. They could feel it, a presence, a spirit, a haunting. They were living in a house that was not just their home, but also the home of something else, something unseen, something eerie. Little did the inhabitants know, they were not alone in the house. Every haunting has a face, and in this case it was a doll, a seemingly innocent plaything, harboring an ancient spirit. Our story takes an eerie turn when a doll is uncovered, a doll unlike any other. It's just a doll, right? A child's plaything, a harmless piece of plastic and fabric. But this was no ordinary doll. This was Sallie. Sallie, with her vacant eyes and her stitched smile, was about to become the center of a chilling tale that defies explanation. Unearthed from the dark recesses of an old attic, Sallie was just another forgotten toy. But as she was brought into the light, peculiar happenings began to unfold. Objects moved without explanation. Whispers echoed through empty rooms. Shadows danced in the corner of one's eye, only to disappear when confronted. It was a gradual realization that something was amiss, something that couldn't be easily brushed off as mere coincidence. The doll, Sallie, was always there. Amid the confusion and the fear, she sat innocently, her glassy eyes reflecting the flickering lights, her stitched smile unchanged. She was just a doll, right? But the more the strange occurrences escalated, the more she seemed to be at the heart of it all. She was the constant in a sea of variables, the common denominator in a string of inexplicable events. As the realization dawned, so too did the fear. Could it be possible? Could this doll, this simple child's plaything, be haunted? Was it Sallie causing the strange happenings? Was it Sallie who whispered in the silence, who moved objects with unseen hands? The absurdity of the idea was only outweighed by the chilling evidence that continued to mount. Sallie was not just a doll. She was a vessel, a conduit for the unseen. She was the face of an ancient spirit, a window to the other side, a tangible manifestation of the intangible. And as the terror continued to escalate, one thing became clear. Sallie was not to be underestimated. What happens when the unseen decides to show itself? Imagine a house, seemingly ordinary, but within its walls, the very fabric of reality seems to fray. The Sallie House was no longer just a home. It had become a conduit to the unknown, a place where the laws of nature ceased to exist, where the unseen began to take form. The paranormal activities within the house began to escalate, not just fleeting shadows or strange noises that could be dismissed as figments of an overactive imagination. No, these events were real, tangible, and terrifyingly unpredictable. One of the most chilling incidents was the mysterious scratches. They would appear out of nowhere, deep, vicious marks that seemed to be etched by unseen claws. They were found on the walls, on the furniture, even on the inhabitants themselves. The unseen terror had begun to physically manifest itself, and it was clear it bore malice. And then there were the fires. Fires that would start spontaneously without any logical explanation. They would burn fiercely, threatening to engulf the house, only to extinguish themselves just as suddenly as they had started. The unseen terror was not just a passive observer anymore. It had become a force of destruction. But perhaps the most terrifying were the apparitions. Ethereal figures that would appear and disappear at will. The sight of these spectral beings was enough to freeze one's blood. They were a stark reminder that the unseen terror was not just an impersonal force. It was conscious, it was aware, and it was watching. As the fear within the house intensified, so did the paranormal activities. The unseen terror seemed to feed off the fear, growing stronger and more malevolent with each passing day. It was no longer a question of if it would strike again, but when. The unseen had made its presence known, and it was far from friendly. It had moved from the shadows and into the light, revealing itself as a force to be reckoned with. It was clear that the Sallie House was not just haunted, it was a battleground, a place caught in the grip of an unseen terror. Behind every haunting, there's a story. A tale of sorrow, anger, and in this case, vengeance. Our story takes us back to the late 19th century, to a small town in the heartland of America. Sallie, a young girl full of life and laughter, was the apple of her parents' eyes. But life is often cruel, and fate even more so. Sallie's life was cut tragically short due to an unforeseen illness. Her spirit, however, could not find the peace it sought. Instead, it found a vessel, a doll. The very doll that had been Sallie's favorite plaything in her short life. A doll that was now the embodiment of her spirit, a spirit filled with a mix of sorrow, anger, and an overwhelming desire for retribution. Sallie's death had been sudden and painful. The town's doctor had been unable to save her, his lack of knowledge and understanding of her illness resulting in her untimely demise. This failure became the focus of Sallie's wrath, the object of her vengeful spirit. She did not seek revenge on the living, but rather on the memory of the man who had failed her. She wanted his name to be forever associated with her tragic end, his reputation tarnished by his inability to save her. Her spirit sought to bring about this justice from beyond the grave, using the doll as her medium. As the years passed, the doll began to manifest signs of Sallie's restless spirit. It moved on its own. Its eyes would follow those in the room, and whispers could be heard in the dead of night. The doll became a symbol of Sallie's unresolved anger, a physical representation of her thirst for revenge. The spirit of Sallie, once a vibrant young girl full of life and promise, was now a vengeful force, trapped within the confines of a doll. A reminder of a life cut short, a life that could have been, and a life that was now dedicated to the pursuit of vengeance. Sallie was no longer a child. She was a vengeful spirit, trapped in a doll, thirsting for revenge. When faced with the inexplicable, what does one do? The aftermath of the haunting was a series of desperate attempts to cleanse the house of its malevolent resident. The family, now living in constant fear, sought the assistance of spiritualists, hoping to rid their home of the unseen terror. Exorcisms were attempted, not once but on multiple occasions. Each time, they were met with an eerie silence that would soon give way to greater disturbances. It was as if every attempt to expel the spirit only served to provoke it further. The once comforting walls of the house now echoed with an oppressive dread, a chilling reminder of an unseen presence. The doll, the innocent-looking toy that had become the symbol of their fear, was also targeted. They tried to discard the doll, to burn it, bury it, even to leave it far away from the house. Yet, each time, it would find its way back. It would appear in the most unexpected places, its glassy eyes seeming to watch them, to follow them. It was a constant, terrifying reminder of the vengeful spirit that refused to let go. In the end, the decision was inevitable. The family chose to abandon the house, to leave behind the terror that had turned their lives into a living nightmare. They left the doll behind, its eerie stare, a haunting farewell. The house was left untouched, a chilling monument to the unseen terror that had once dwelled within its walls. Today, the Sallie House stands empty, its once warm and welcoming facade now a stark reminder of the terror that unfolded within. It stands as a testament to the unseen world, to the spirits that might dwell among us, unseen and unheard, until they choose to make their presence known. The Sallie House stands as a chilling reminder of the unseen world that lurks around us.